And I'll send you a copy of this too when this is done.
Appreciate it.
All right, we are live. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Passion Connect. I am Sam Odiemi, and this is one of our next podcast series. I have with me today, I don't even know how to say this, but I have with me today a gentleman who I've known over, he's 24 years now, since we go back to 1999, since fourth grade. LeRoy Gordon. And I'm going to be interviewing him on our next series of our next podcast for Passion Connect. I always refer to Leroy as one of the most interesting men in the world, well traveled and well versed, and just well experienced in a lot of different things that he's done. And figured it'd be a great candidate to have on Passion Connect to talk about his endeavors and just to share some of his knowledge and feedback to anybody looking to walk on their purpose and take that next step. So, Leroy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on?
Yeah, so I am Leroy Daniel Gordon, aka Roy Flash Gordon.
Roy's your
Uh,
boy.
Roy Flash Gordon, yeah, this is my professional wrestling name, and I definitely think of that as one of my defining passions and like kind of the story of getting there and what I was kind of left with after that, and what led me to my next thing, which is being a men's coach, and that's really what I'm trying to bring to the world is more of that to help men access better, healthier access to their masculine qualities as well as emotional intelligence, as well as bringing all that into their relationships and really having relationships they love or being able to attract a partner that is super ideal for them. On top of both of those things, also done fitness coaching for the last almost 15 years as something that's always been kind of just a thread in my life, something that's kind of been the quote unquote day job as I've pursued all my other interests.
You mentioned wrestling, and obviously, I know about your wrestling background. That just brings back the memories when we were kids wrestling in the parks before school started.
There.
And like, I don't want to tear up now, but I remember like we watch Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, and then that next morning we were in there doing somersaults and DDTs and power bombs and all that crazy stuff. To be that young and dumb and reckless, how we were, man. I miss it, man. It's fun.
Yeah. So fun. You definitely couldn't tell us nothing. And it was like we in
Yeah,
trouble at the school. It's like, okay, let's
yeah,
just find another corner to go around to
yeah.
do it so that they don't see us.
I remember I got in trouble during lunch because I jumped over that dumpster. And Miss Fontaine came out the classroom right as I did it, and then I had to miss gym class like the next year. And I was like, we were just so full of energy back then. It was
So
crazy. I mean, I'm
cool.
still full of energy now, but back then we just it was crazy. It was on 10. So yeah, so I know you do the men's coaching, which I think is unbelievable. I do agree, and I do think a lot of men do need that mentorship and that guidance in their life. You just see a lot of young men in the way they move nowadays, and it's gives me cause for concerns. I see some of these young kids and the things they get involved with, and I just hope that my nephews are not moving in that way, and I don't believe they are. But so, what is your why, Leroy? Why would you say why do you do what you do?
Yeah. I think if I get to a why that I would land on, like I've seen things play out in my life. I've seen the way I've moved in the past. I've seen the products of this work go from like this, seeking freedom. I've always sought out freedom. And even in thinking I'm seeking freedom, especially in the area of relationships, being with whoever I want to be with, doing what I want to do, forget their feelings, or at least thinking I'm considering their feelings, but the ultimate person's feelings I care about are my own. And like really, having seen myself thinking I'm seeking freedom while avoiding responsibility, while avoiding accountability, while avoiding really taking into consideration another human being's like experience. So just little pieces in where I thought I was like on this path, but I really wasn't, and it was false. And there was a lot of the number one thing there was fear, and I've seen myself defeat fear in many ways, in many areas, But when I defeated like and it's a constant battle, right? But when I, finally could see how much fear I was living with, and it started took the steps to start to remove power from that fear and more power from that fear, then is when I actually achieved freedom. And that is, I think, the story for possibly almost everyone in some way, shape, or form in varying levels of degrees. So I think my why is to help people see their fear and face it. And every time it comes up, face it. And knowing that you'll never defeat it fully, but face it every single time so that you can actually see freedom. Because that is, fear is always going to come up in front of that in some areas for us. And if we're able to defeat that, like life, like what we can do, the things that we just are things we never imagined is what's accessible to us. And helping people get that, helping men get that, especially in this world where we do a lot of things out of fear that hurt a lot of people in a lot of ways. And I would love to free men of that fear and free the world of that harm that can be caused.
So you mentioned the word fear, and I've heard this word a lot now too. I mean, I've heard people kind of dive in it and define it and break it down. And two different distinctions that I get with fear is forget everything and run,
Mm.
or face everything and rise. And obviously,
Mhm.
you're more so of the face everything and rise aspect, which is great. And I love those acronyms. I love the second one, obviously, a lot more, just because just encourage you to kind of step out your comfort zone and challenging you. For example, roller coasters. I hate giant drop, the one that lifts you all the way up and
Yeah.
drop down. I'm not good with heights, but every time I go to the amusement park, I always do giant drop once, and it's just always facing my fears and that feeling you get after going through it, whether it's adrenaline, whatever you want to call it, just the fact that I've stepped onto the roller coaster and faced my fear. It's empowering. It's empowering us and whoever. And that could be said for other people too, who kind of face those fears and they kind of they're scared of I can't think of anything now, but just facing your fears just has that empowering effect on
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely.
So I know you've done wrestling and this and that. When did you first, and I guess, when did you first become aware of your passions, or you understand like, hey, this is something I'm really really interested in, this is something that I really kind of want to dive into more? When did you have that ha moment in a sense?
Yeah, I think the one around wrestling was pretty huge for me because people ask me like, "How'd you start your healing journey? How'd you start your spiritual journey? Or how'd you start to work with men?" I'll go all the way back to that moment when I decided to be a pro wrestler, and
Mhm.
it's something I always wanted to do. Like you said, since we were kids, like I guess I was the one where it was like, "Oh no, I really want to do it," and like that, like being in my head. And like at every turn, it was like finish high school. I thought football was going to be the thing, and it's like, well, it's not going to be the thing. What can I do? And it's like can try to be a pro wrestler, but then like so much fear would come up, so many limiting beliefs around like, oh no, no one's going to take me seriously to chase if I chase this kind of pipe dream like thing, or people are going to think I'm silly because it's not real or whatever, and like just letting all these and oh shit and things around even my body. I'm like, oh, I'm too small. Like no one's gonna want to see me do that stuff, like whatever. And just like a lot of stuff just in my head, buzzing around in my head. And that led me into after high school, going to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is another passion that I really love. I think I've always loved the physical side of things, even when we were kids wrestling, we played, we did some basketball, we played football, we really loved football, I went into high school to play it. And like there's always been something to that I wanted to do with my body. And I do think there's other implications around being black men and what our like worth is around that we can get into at some point. But like I've always wanted to do that and had that down, and being pro wrestling was just like something felt taboo, something felt like people are going to judge me. And that is where the fear came up. So I was like, nope, I'm not going to do that. But jujitsu, like that's real. Like maybe I can be an MMA fighter one day and try to like be famous, right? Like so, there's always this thing around also getting to be in front of people and being on a stage also that I've always wanted. But I was like dampening that and dampening that rather, and just not following that voice, but following this will be legitimate. People will respect me if I do this kind of like game. After about 5 years of jujitsu, which I really loved and was successful at, I was miserable. I felt like I had no purpose, no direction. But in the back of my head, it was like, well, bro, you know what you actually want to do. You know exactly what you want to do. Why aren't you doing it? And then the voices of judgment, the fear of judgment, the limiting beliefs, all that stuff rose up again. And I really just noticed what it was like being in that space of like, yeah, misery. Like it was misery. And I had every reason to be happy. Like again, successful in jujitsu, a relationship that was going pretty good at the time, like almost done with college at the time. And it was just like just life was devoid of color and pleasure, etc. And I knew the reason why was I didn't like have that direction. So that like aha moment came when I was kind of just like, yo, this is my life and I'm not liking it right now. And I have this, like, it's like I can push this button to start this journey, and I would just feel so much better. Like, at what point, like, who cares what anybody else could possibly have to say about it, unless it was like supportive words. So I pushed that button and started the journey, and like so much opened up, so much opened up. And I think that was the first real time, like, especially as an adult, like I took a big like limiting belief that was on my back and I just took it off and was off to the races from there.
I didn't. I'm not sure if I knew you did BJJ. I actually wanted to try that. I've messed around with some martial arts myself. Capoeira is what I'm currently
Yeah.
doing now. I love that, man. I did a little. I'm practicing still kickboxing and regular boxing, but BJJ. We have a BJJ school out here, and I definitely want to try that and try a little Wing Chun as well. Those
Yeah.
things I get into. But yeah, as far as football goes, we used to play dead man. And I remember like you said, we literally just destroy our bodies and stuff like that. And I definitely like to get into more interesting conversations about that and what you mentioned, the point about a black man in our bodies too, because yeah, we just didn't care back then. We were doing that before we even started school. It was like we were
Yeah.
outside doing that because or whenever we got outside we do that. So yeah, I think martial arts, why I really gravitated towards that in my later years, in my late 20s, the discipline aspect of it. The discipline aspect that it brought with it, and just obviously self-defense, being able to defend myself, if situation calls for. So I know I definitely agree for that. And it's funny because I got into meditation and yoga, and then I started getting more into that, that aspect. So I got into the meditation aspect really like in 2013. I started, meditating, going to classes, but just kind of way to kind of calm yourself down. And then when situations arose, not always just reacting off anger or just not, just really be able to breathe and just having that space between, acknowledging what's happening and reacting and or responding, and just having that space. Meditation kind of helped open my eyes to that. And it's not a situation, when situations arise, I can kind of just breathe. And like people are like, man, you're so calm in this situation, because obviously the situation. And martial arts brings that as well, that calm, and say, hey, if something happens, I can protect myself and I defend myself and do what I need to do. So yeah, I definitely want to try some BJJ. And I actually drove past that school today, and I was like, I want to try it. I have some friends teach me some moves, but I definitely will learn to pick that up sometime too.
Huge, man. I think it's huge. Jiu-jitsu is huge in the first place. I think it's the most practical martial art there is. So easily accessible for anyone. Like anyone, like, or there's a piece of it for everyone. Everyone of every body type can have something they're good at it, good at. And then like the idea that you can defeat a larger opponent is just so important. I think for smaller bodies especially, it's just like, if someone's trying to do something to you, especially if I don't know what happens if they've done jujitsu, but you can still have something to do, something to defend yourself, and it's not just like you're in a situation where you cannot move. And I do think it really helps. You have confidence in your nervous system, and you speak about meditation and being able to, like, when you become dysregulated, get regulated again, or like you do so much of this work, and there's not just meditation, breath work, and just other like mental toughness kind of developing activities that give you a larger threshold, so that when stuff does go down, like you're able to be more likely to stay settled or get back to a settled nature, so that you can respond rather in an appropriate way, as opposed to that knee-jerk reaction, which may or may not be in your best benefit. So definitely feel that, man.
Yeah, I agree. So, um, what sort of risks have you taken and
Hmm.
rewards have you received while pursuing your passions? And obviously, I guess risk could just be something as simple as a physical toll it might take on you or a mental toll, but just touch more on that for me. I want to hear your
Yeah. I'll say money, a ton of money, and I don't see it as a risk. I see it as an investment. There are investments that I made that have yet to pay off and will perhaps take a few years to pay off. But I've definitely seen things go in the other direction. But that's definitely like the biggest thing. Like I see a lot of people like press pause on their personal development, and I'll take everything from a professional wrestling seminar that I took back in the day to help me hone my skills, all the way up to a coaching course that's helping me be better at breath work so I can teach it to my clients. Like all of that is an investment in you, an investment in your skill. And I see a lot of people like pump the brakes when it gets to the point where it's like, oh, this costs money. Like it's like, it costs money. It's like, yeah, it costs money. Somebody's time and effort, et cetera, to teach your thing. Yes, it costs money. And if you think you're gonna like get ahead in anything, any business, any industry without forking up some dough, like not happening. Talent alone, like even if you are the hottest talent, you know, until somebody knows who you are, it's not going to do anything. And even after they know who you are, there might just be a discount. So I just like, I know that that's been something I've been just willing to do. Perhaps at some really stupid times, like it has been a risk, and there have been times where it just straight up didn't pay off and is not going to pay off. And I had to be okay with that because there's some, payoff in here, hitting my chest, or my brain that came from that still. So that's been something for sure. Pro wrestling, definitely devastating physical toll. Most of the time, I do think I have, a few things that I'll probably deal with for many years, possibly the rest of my life from it. And I wouldn't change a thing. Maybe one or two bad falls. I was like, okay, that was stupid. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. But that's about it. Most of those falls I take over and over and over again, just because of what it brought me. And a ton of time, ton of time. There's times in wrestling where I drive for 16 hours, do a match, and get my ass back in the car, drive 16 hours, go home so I can work the next day, so I can keep it moving. And I will say that, if I just look at wrestling as one big risk, that its payoff has been like my sense of self, my speaking ability, my presentation, my presence, my charisma, like all that honed and stuff that makes me an attractive, like, coach for people. Yeah. I think I have a pretty good relationship with risk, and I'm like pretty happy to take them. Like I definitely slowed down in the point where it's like, okay, I see the opportunity. I see the opportunity for risk here. I see my ability to just calculate a little bit, to make them a bit more calculated, like just really think about like what that bottom line will be, what that loss will be if this does not come to fruition. And most of the time the gain is always like worth it for me. So I think when it's come time to jump in, I jumped in. Has it always paid off? A lot of the time, but not always, and I definitely live by the, you win or you learn kind of mentality. So it's hard to call anything full loss.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there completely. You say you win or you learn. I mean, yeah, a lot of times the best investment we're ever going to make is really truly in ourselves, and that's just going to bring us the most reward. I see people, spend, thousands of dollars on new cars or clothes and stuff like that, but they won't, spend $50 and buy a book or purchase a course that's going to probably change their life for the better. And if they do get to that point, and when money's involved, then it's a different story. But I wholeheartedly agree. Some of the best investments I made have been in myself. Um, like you said, the public speaking and us being black men, having to navigate in this world. Public speaking's been big for me. The meditation has been big for me as well too, because nobody wants to deal with somebody who's a hothead, who's out of control. So, investing myself in those ways. Fit from a physical standpoint, really getting more into fitness now. I'm even still now like just dabbling with all these different things. All these things are investments in me. And some of them you're going to see the results right away. Others, it's a seed you're planting, and it might not blossom for a year or so. So I wholeheartedly agree with you about the best investment. I think it's definitely in ourselves, and I wish more people kind of realize that or realize that sooner. And you can spend money. I have a colleague I deal with now, and this I always tell him I was like, you spend more, you put more into your car than you do into yourself, and it's the truth. And I'm like, and they just don't see it that way. I was like, every little thing with your car, you tend to. I was like, I'm like, you won't get up and go, walk or exercise or eat healthier, but you'll do everything you can in your car to keep your car in a brand new condition. I'm like, you got to switch that mindset up from that way, and that's just, something I tend to see a lot of.
It's like, do you even go to your doctor's appointment every year? Do you get your checkup? You get that car in there though.
Yeah,
It's a common thing with
yeah,
dudes that just don't go to the damn doctor, and like a lot of the reason why we die sooner than women is we just don't know until it's too late a lot of the time.
yeah,
So that's an extremely important thing, that one little thing. If you can get your damn car, like all the fixings, at least take your ass to the doctor. Those
yeah.
little things, totally, man.
Those little things, like you said, they're gonna, definitely pay the, they're definitely gonna pan out for you in the beginning if you address them. And it's even, self care routines, and yeah, like you said, men die sooner too, and a lot of things I'm saying too. With some of the guys that I talk to now, is the older guys I talk to now, is they always talk about your blood pressure. High blood pressure runs rampant. Men, especially in the black community too. And so I remember when I went to the doctor a couple of years ago, they always used to tell me my blood pressure was high, and it's dropped a lot. Obviously, that's through meditation, exercise, and a change of diet. But then even like I want to say within the last year and a half or so, I've been juicing on a regular basis. Really, like like I just blended up. I just juiced a watermelon, a big boy, yesterday, last night. It took an hour, but watermelon and beetroot juice have been really good for lowering blood pressure and just something simple like that where I juice now. It's a part of my routine. Wake up in the morning, drink a little juice, whether and that's just something that is going to help me live longer, you know and to invest into myself. So yeah.
Beautiful, dude. Love it.
Okay. So what new things have you learned from your passions? And obviously, how have that affected your life choices? You know, did it cause you to relocate? What are some of kind of touch on a little bit of that?
Yeah. I really trying to think. There's so much, so much. I think that the biggest thing that I've learned and kind of doing men's work, I'll talk about that a little bit. Biggest thing I learned in men's work is to what it really meant to take responsibility, um, and take responsibility in the way that um, I think there's a classic way, like if there's something that is in my, part of my duties, I have responsibility to take care of that. Or if I like have a child in my care, it's my responsibility to take care of that, that in that way, sure. But like in the way that everything that happens in my life is my responsibility. So the removal of blame from literally anyone else, anything else, any government, any system, and while respecting that, yes, things have happened in my life that kind of influenced it, like the influences of institutionalized racism have affected all of us, as Black people. And my responsibility is to kind of work through it, to navigate it best I can, to contribute to the dismantling of it best I can. And that's it. But I'm not going to like blame it. I'm not blaming it for anything. I'm going to be the one to take the steps to move forward. My dad wasn't there to raise me, and I'm going to take responsibility for me becoming the man that I want to be, even though I didn't have that model in the home. My mom, was very abusive, coming up. And I'm the one who's going to take responsibility for healing those wounds. And it's not on her to make me feel better. And I think just that dedication to responsibility, even in relationships, everything that happens in the relationship is quote unquote my fault, and the way I mean it, like I'm going to be involved in the solution of what's going on. And I'm never going to just put it on my partner to like however she's acting. I'm not just going to put that all on her. What did I do to make her want to act this way, or feel like she needed to act this way? Just taking radical responsibility has done crazy stuff for me. I have a completely new relationship with both my parents that I never imagined that I would have. Relationships, I'm just been attracting partners that are just more and more and more like, wow, this is like pretty much what I want, like for my future. And then I see that maybe it's not, but then the next person just happens to be, oh, this is even better. Like it's just getting closer and closer and closer. And all those relationships that I've had in the course of this thinking, like even if they end, it's not like a big dramatic like blow up ending. It's like it ends respectfully, like with everyone just kind of saying what they need to say, moving on, and it being peaceful instead of just like the dramatics that we're also familiar with. I feel deeply empowered to like, my capacity feels like it's grown, like my capacity for energy, my capacity for intensity, my creativity, even just all of it has grown in this like respect that, I can do what I need to do. I can find the resources I need to find and bring those in to accomplish the task I need to accomplish. I can have the hard conversations that I need to have. It's just really opened up just a whole like level of self-expression that I didn't really know I had. And I think that, I wanted to reference that in the way of blaming and how we often blame things. And it's like, when you're blaming, you are giving your power away. When you're blaming, you are saying like, because they did this, I'm going to do this. And so they have power over me, more power than I have over myself because, of that. And I can't act in all these better ways, even though, yeah, you can. And even if you can't today, you can go and get, maybe you go to therapy and that's going to help you move towards that. But the removal of blame just leaves it being you, and you can just do so much more when you're not tethered by the blame that you have, assigned to another person, place, thing, whatever. Responsibility, that's a huge one. I could probably go on for days on that one, but responsibility is a big one that I definitely picked up from that.
I agree. And the point in the head too, when when you don't use the blame on somebody else, you put the onus on yourself, you're not giving any power to that person in that situation to dictate how you're going to move. And now you're putting all the power back to yourself, and then how you choose to respond to that really, is key. Too, like you said, I grew up in a single parent household as well. It'd be too easy to kind of blame my mom or do that. But as I gotten older, I'm saying now I just, I've gotten involved in some men's, I'm in a couple of different groups with men, and men's coaching groups, and they're just kind of helping me, and we're all kind of just striving to become the best versions of ourselves. And that guidance and mentorship is invaluable. And like I said, I believe every man definitely needs that. I could read a million books, I like to read a lot, but actually, talking to older gentlemen, there's guys I work out with, older gentlemen who I could just, just get that feedback, that knowledge, and bounce things off of them. And if they give me advice on life situations or just fitness advice, and the thing I love is I'll go try that or implement the advice they give me and come back to them and tell them, hey, I did this. This is what my experience was with that. And they just love it because it's that ha moment, that that moment, what I'm saying, where you just and it's just, that learning experience and that learning moment. And I guess one of the last questions is, what advice would you give to someone who wants to, transition to more of an entrepreneur lifestyle?
Mm. Yeah. Mm. Oh, that's a great question. I think if you have the inkling to do it, just do it. We do not have forever here, as far as we know. And the way however you conceptualize life, like this one is all we have, all we know. And I don't see why we don't want to we would not like maximize that. You know, if you need confidence to do it, this is the greatest time of all time to kind of do that kind of stuff. And there may be, there may be outside factors like, reasons you got to make a certain amount of money or kids or whatever, but it's just like, I don't think anything can be as important as a relationship with yourself. And in that relationship, we all have, I mean, my inner child wanted to be a professional wrestler. I gave him that. He wanted some other things that I found out. We figured that out, and we got this great relationship, right? But like in doing that, like it opened up so much more for my life. And I was on the path of denying that. I think people live chronically unhappy lives because of there is this purpose, there is this calling, there's this voice in their head that's telling them to do this thing. And you at least got to dip your toe in that thing, get a flavor for that thing, see what your life could be like with it. And if it, ends up being a hobby or ends up being a life-changing business, like whatever, you gotta like listen to that voice. Because I do feel like the more we have it and the more we don't listen to it, the more kind of our heart or our soul kind of erodes, and that connection with yourself erodes. And that, is a recipe for, I think, addiction. I think for accepting less than ideal partners into your life. I think for accepting less than ideal treatment in all areas. And it's like, if you don't honor yourself, nothing else, no one else is going to honor you. You get used to that. And then that's just a way down, a way down into, places that we see people get to all the time. And there's chemical things around that, but for a lot of people, I don't think we have to go there. And I think the way to avoid it, and it's not from fear, it should be inspirational, is to chase your purpose, honor your purpose, honor that voice inside yourself.
Yeah, that's spot on, and that's literally the reason why we started, Passion Connect. Me and my buddy, we were just talking, and we were just like, we can go out to the bars every weekend and party and do this, but what about if we spend one night, what about one night a week and we just invest in ourselves, we invest in our purpose, and we just keep going with it. What can it lead to it? And I think that, like you said, it just brings the greatest reward. So that was spot on. And I guess the last thing I want to ask you, or ask you, is just how can people get in contact with you, especially if there's men out here who are looking to kind of join your program. Do you have a Instagram page for that or anything along those lines? I would
Yeah.
definitely share that to my network. So
Yeah, I appreciate it. At RoyFlashGordon is my main Instagram page. I have a few others, but that one's the best place to reach me. And I'm currently offering, my big thing that I'm excited about is mid-August. I'm going to drop the exact date later this week, but mid-August starting my next intake of King in Relationship, kind of a way to bring actual kingly qualities, leadership qualities, but also be kind of breaking down what that actually means and can look like for men, so they can experience more freedom in their lives, but also bringing that energy to their love lives and their relationships as well. But with the main focus of in that course, growing that king internally and bringing him out into the world. So I'm excited about that. It's an 8-week course, but also got men's groups, an online group, an in-person group if you're in Chicago, that I'm also putting together currently.
nice, nice, man. Wow, this is great. All great content. I definitely got a lot out of this, and I hope our viewers do as well. Again, I'm Sam Odiemi with Passion Connect. That's LeRoy Gordon, RoyFlashGordon. Definitely check him out. I will be posting his handle in this video here as well. And if you are a man out there and you're looking for that guidance, you just feel lost, don't know what you're doing in life. I highly recommend looking into some sort of mentorship program. Take control of your life. Saying it's easy to point the finger at all the things around you, but just take control of your life, and it definitely would pay off. Um, thank you guys again for joining us for another podcast session for Passion Connect, and stay tuned for more amazing dope content.